Okay, back. Travis Anderson. Good afternoon, podcast world. Travis Anderson. Where are we and what should we do about it? My next book is in stores available. It's called Life Forward. It's picking up on the same concept, only more about life forward. I saw something recently that caught my attention in a major way. Shocking. Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and a couple other people associated with the political right got together, and we're talking about a different direction, potentially even a third party. Normally, that wouldn't interest me very much. I've spent a lot of time talking about how much human attention gets consumed by politics, personalities, arguments, and competition between sides. This particular moment in time was different because when Tucker Carlson laid out his 10 points, something jumped out at me. Not simply what was there, what wasn't there was jolting. Yeah, he attempted to describe things people could actually organize around: equal treatment under the law, productive work, manufacturing, accountability, education, families, and a country that functions. Largely absent was the usual requirement that we first divide ourselves into competing political and religious tribes. It caught my attention because that's a direction we've been exploring in my books. It matters because where this is coming from. Tucker Carlson has spent decades inside political media. Marjorie Taylor Greene became nationally famous largely through political confrontation. Both have said things throughout their career that many Americans have considered extraordinarily divisive, borderline crazy shit. Built their careers around just crazy, divisive rhetoric meant to divide and get attention. People that became successful inside the machinery of the division, finding their way out of that fog and landing on the idea that we are better off finding and investing in human potential was extraordinary. We don't need to make Carlson a hero or Marjorie Taylor Greene a villain. They are exactly the categories I'm trying to stay beyond. A better question is, does this belong? That's sorting differently, and that is the topic that I spend most of my time with. Imagine putting a table in the middle of a room, and around that table are Republicans, Democrats, Christians, Muslims, atheists, conservatives, liberals, and people who couldn't care less about any of those labels. Now put something on the table. Healthy children. Does it belong? Yes. Good education? Yes. Meaningful work? Yes. Safe communities? Yes. Honest institutions? Yes. Human health, opportunity, peace, the ability to raise a family and participate meaningfully in your community? Yes. Humans, beings developing their potential, and that potential back into the world? Yes. Pretty quickly, something remarkably happens. We discover an enormous territory that belongs to everybody, and we've been spending an incredible amount of our attention fighting over the much smaller territory we disagree. I think our incentives have been misguided and misdirected. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, just to name a couple, became particularly interesting examples. Political media learns something. Conflict gets attention. Outrage gets attention. Fear, an enemy, gets attention. They're both notable for getting attention, massive success. It was both of their rise to fame was focusing on those things and less on leaving divisive rhetoric out and finding a way to bring people in. We found out that attention could be converted into money, influence, votes, audiences, and power. Nobody needed to design the whole thing. People simply responded to the incentives in front of them. One successful outrage produces another. One politician discovers that attacking the other side generates attention. A television host discovers the same thing. Social media discovers it. Political fundraising discovers it. Pretty soon we've built an enormous machine around something that doesn't actually answer the most important question. Where are we trying to go? And now some of the people who became extraordinarily successful operating inside that machine appear to be asking that question themselves. That's the sea change. That's what's remarkable. That got my attention. Here's where a framework becomes important. Suppose somebody has spent 20 years participating in a divisive and suddenly says, maybe we should stop doing this. What should our response be? You don't get to say that because of what you said 10 years ago. That would be another dead end. If we're serious about moving forward, we have to leave the door to forward open. Otherwise, nobody can ever change direction. Life doesn't work that way. Life sorts. Something doesn't work. New information becomes available. Adjustment occurs, and the process continues. The relevant question isn't, where were you? It's, where are you pointing now? And then we keep watching. Does the behavior continue moving in that direction? Does it produce something useful? Does it include more people? Does it reduce unnecessary conflict? Does it increase human capacity? Does everyone get to participate? Those are much more interesting questions. The fascinating thing about the history of organisms and life on this planet is forward has always been there. There have been lateral movements. There have been species that have failed and died. There have been catastrophes, misunderstandings. Human beings especially go down rabbit holes that do not produce meaningful results. But something in the background is constantly pushing and pointing in the same direction, forward. If Carlson and Green simply create another political faction whose identity becomes we're the good people and those people are the enemy, then nothing fundamental has changed. We've rearranged the teams. Forward has to be bigger than that. Imagine instead that somebody on the political right says something useful. We keep it. Someone on the political left says something useful. Keep it. A scientist discovers something useful. Keep it. A teacher discovers a better way to help children learn. A business discovers a better way to develop its employees. Someone in China discovers something useful. Someone in Russia discovers something useful. Keep it. An idea doesn't have to pass an ideological test. It has to pass a relevance test. Does this help us move forward? That's why I've been increasingly uninterested in asking whether something is conservative or liberal. Those are inherited sorting categories. I'm interested in another category. Does it belong forward? We spent thousands of years creating identities and institutions that separate human beings. Religion, nationality, political parties, ideology, race, class, all kinds of bullshit that we make up along the way because we need to belong. We need to feel like something is looking at us, and that's our default. Instead of doing the work to discover what it is that makes sense long term, we take the easy road and find tribes to belong to. Those days, it seems like, are potentially going to be left behind. Maybe we are taking a step out of the darkness of the conflict that we created ourselves and finding a better sense of belonging where we should be. We're human beings. We're alive. We're trying to have a good experience being alive. We want our children to thrive. We want meaningful relationships. We want opportunity. We want safety. We want purpose. We want to use our capacities. And increasingly, we need one another. That's enormous common ground. Maybe instead of beginning with the tiny percentage of things that separate us, we begin there. So I'm watching what Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene are doing, not because I've suddenly joined their team. That's the old story. I've paid attention to both of them and found myself more often than not shaking my head, wondering how it is possible that these words are coming out of somebody's mouth. But I'm watching because I recognize something in the direction. They're beginning to ask a question that more people are going to have to ask. What can we actually build together? And when people who have spent significant portions of their careers participating in division begin asking that question, I think it's worth noticing. Maybe they continue, maybe they don't. That's not really the important part. The important part is that the idea is appearing because nobody owns forward. Nobody invented it. Nobody gets to control it. We discover it. We contribute what we can see. Someone else sees the next piece and we keep going. We don't need everybody to agree about everything. We need to become much better at recognizing the things we already agree belong and then put our attention there. It's a very different human project. And maybe we're beginning to see the first signs that other people are discovering the same thing. Forward is available to everyone. Me, you, Tucker, Marjorie. There is a space that we can share that doesn't require inventing division. Thanks for listening.